Hey there, it's me again. Sorry I've been super busy. Um, but I wanted to give you another installment. I hope everybody's doing okay. I know it's a lot going on out there and people are worried about their jobs. They are worried about SNAP benefits. So just wanted to let you know. I hope and pray that everybody is well and sustaining themselves through all of this. Y'all know we are resilient people. So we know how to make things work. If needed, we know how to go into our pantry and find a meal. Rice and beans, stuff we might have in the freezer. So I hope that everybody is doing okay as well as could be expected. Today, I thought, wow, some of us have a little extra time. We could talk about retirement. And that's something that most people look forward to, although we don't look forward to getting older. We do look forward to having time. Time to do whatever we want on our own terms when we want to do it. I know I do. So, how can we prepare for retirement? And how do we make sure that we don't have to work at 80? Because we know a lot of our folks are down trying to get part time jobs to make ends meet, not because they want to, but because they have to. Now, if you want to work until you're 80, 90, because you love your job or you love working or that's what brings you happiness and purpose, feel free. But I got other things to do. So that's why I started really getting into this so I could figure out how do I exit the workforce and not just exit, not exit and say, oh, can I hold XYZ dollars till the first? I exit the workforce and I'm thriving and I'm going on my vacations more than when I was working, not less. That's my dream. That I'm able to go and say, oh, yeah, let's go for this nice dinner. We don't have to get up in the morning. Or even if I need to call somebody to come in and clean my house, I was about to say that for retirement. That's kind of like now. Uh, but maybe I want them to increase their services, not just every 2 weeks. Maybe I'm gonna need you to come in every week, or maybe I'm gonna need you to come in and meal prep for me so I can just enjoy and do what brings me purpose, right? So, what kind of retirement do you want? Take a minute and dream and think about that, because usually the retirement you want costs some money. So hopefully that'll motivate you as it motivates me to do what I need to do now while I'm young. I'm kind of young-ish at this point, but um, especially if you are young and you're watching this, you are 20s and 30s and early. You got time to really make the dream work. If you're a little later in the spectrum, you got some work to do, but you can still make your dream work too. So just think about what you want. Does it mean stopping working at a certain age so you can focus on something else? Does it mean the ability to travel, to take your grandkids to Disney one day, um, to be able to help financially with kids and grandkids through college? Um, does it look like you buying a second home or vacation home? Does it look like you move into another area? What does your retirement, your future dream look like? Focus on that to help you to just take some of what you're making and live on less than you make so that you can make a margin that's going to be able to leave you with some money later. Because I know where we are, we focus on now. Okay, today's Friday, got my paycheck, boom, it's time to hit the streets. We ain't got to hit the streets every Friday. I mean, we can, but just figure out how much you're making and how much of that you can sacrifice. Now, I'm not saying to sacrifice everything because I like to go out. I still want my vacations now. I still want to be able to go out with my friends, go out with my husband, um, be able to pamper myself when I want to do that. one of my musts is pedicure, that kind of thing. Work that into a budget for yourself. We'll talk about budgeting on a future video, but figure out what things you could do without so that you can enjoy life later. But if it's something you love and need in your life, I'm not saying you got to cut that out. Some of us spend money on things we don't even really want or like. Don't spend your money on things that don't matter. Just because your coworkers go to Starbucks, you ain't gotta go to Starbucks. Now, if you love Starbucks and that's the best coffee in the world, okay, more power to you. But for me, I'm fine with having my coffee at home or having my little tea that I do my own tea bag. You can buy a box of tea for, even organic good teas, about $4 for 20 or something like that, instead of $4 for one. That's what I'm talking about. Or instead of buying a Pepsi from the vending machine every day, can you just buy a case of Pepsis and bring your own Pepsi, right? Things that you're not sacrificing things that really matter to you, but that you could do without. And you could use that money towards your future. So, the first awesome retirement account is the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA, as of 2025, which is when I'm filming, you can invest $7,000 a year if you are under the age of 50. There's a catch-up contribution of, I believe, $1,000 if you're 50 and over. The Roth is the bomb. Why? Because whatever money you put into it, whatever it grows to, all of that money is tax-free. And you have a Roth available in the Roth IRA, and you have a Roth typically available in whatever your employer-sponsored retirement plan is. So if you're able to get money into the Roth, you don't get a tax break on the money put into the Roth, but whatever grows to is all tax-free. So imagine your money is growing, and maybe you've only put in $100,000 of your money, but it's at $1 million, for example. All of that money, tax-free. However, you can only access the Roth at 59 and a half, and you have to make sure that you put your first dollar into it a minimum of 5 years before you're going to retire, and then, or at least 5 years before you're going to touch the money. And then all of that is tax-free. Like I said, you got to be 59 and a half to access it, but tax-free growth if you get the dollars in at least 5 years. Even if you put $1, after 5 years, any earnings would be tax-free if you're 59 and a half. So you can start thinking about putting money into there. Now, there are income limitations. However, there are ways around it. So if you look at information on the Roth, if you don't meet the income limitations, your income's too high, good problem to have, you can do the backdoor Roth, which involves putting money into a traditional IRA and not taking a deduction on it, so a non-deductible traditional IRA, and then converting the dollars immediately. So by converting them immediately to a Roth, you are converting it before it has a chance to grow, and you're not taking the tax deduction. Now, there's a form you have to fill out for that, the 8606 with the IRS, but talk to your accountant. And then you have it in the Roth. So think about doing some Roth if you can. The Roth is also, like I said, a Roth IRA is not attached to an employer. So you don't have to worry if you leave an employer, transferring your money and all of that, doing a rollover, I should say. It stays with whatever custodian you have it with. The most popular ones, Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, low-cost providers. Um, and they, in fact, um, have a large amount of holdings, things like that, so you can look into what you need to do for the Roth. The other thing, like I said, was the um, employer sponsored retirement plan. This is your 401k, your 403bs, your 457s, the TSP or thrift savings account, which is for federal employees. Whatever you do, period, get your match. So if the employer is putting in a specific amount based on what you put in enough to get whatever they're willing to match you on. The most common I've seen is maybe 5%, some is 3, 6, but whatever they match you, put in enough to get the maximum they're going to put in. Because think about it, that's almost getting 100% back, right? Because if I put in 100 and you put in 100, boom, that's $200, and I only put in 100, and that's not even talking about the growth in earnings. That's just talking about what your employer puts in immediately. So as you can see, the numbers are going to grow astronomically from there if you're taking advantage of the match in addition to compound growth. And you can think about whether you want to put the money into the pre-tax, which means you get a tax deduction. If you are struggling, let's say with the IRS, and you owe back taxes, this may help to lower your future tax bill, so that you owe less to the IRS. However, if you put it in, let's say you put in $10,000 for the year. This year, the maximum for those under the age of 50 is $23,500 a year, which comes out to, I believe, about $904 or so a paycheck, right? But either way, just to keep the numbers simple, if you're putting in $10,000 over the course of the year in 2025, then that $10,000 is coming off of the gross income that's reported to the IRS. So if you made $100,000 and you put in $10,000, that you're paying taxes only on $90,000. So it could be a good tax break, especially if you're a high income earner. But later on, it all of these the money that you put in, because you got a tax deduction, you have to pay taxes on all of it. So that's why I say, if you can, look into the Roth and see if you could put some money in the Roth. Personally, I put some traditional, some Roth, so I can get a little bit of a tax break, but then I know I still have some tax-free growth I'm getting. If you're able to do full Roth and you're not getting killed on taxes, feel free. But just wanted to give you a heads up on that as well. That you could consider how you want to get the money in. Anything that your employer puts in is automatically going to be pre-tax because you didn't pay taxes on that money. It's your employer's money. But anything you put in, usually you could pick between pre-tax and Roth. All right. The other thing is, you're going to have people trying to convince you that you should be doing annuities and whole life products. I have a lot of financial folks that I kind of meet with just to bounce ideas off and things like that. And they are often trying to convince me, especially whole life, because they'll say, well, you have the life insurance component, you can use it for long-term care, and you can also use it for a death benefit. This product is highly commissioned. Annuities and whole life or permanent life, universal, all of them. That's why they want to sell it to you. Life insurance is insurance. Do not use life insurance as an investment. There are so many other ways to invest, especially in retirement plans, that are tax advantaged. And this whole life product is not going to grow at the rate that you can get from your retirement accounts or investing in a taxable brokerage. We'll talk about that a little bit, but we'll talk about that in a future episode as well. If you have maxed out your employer plan, you've maxed out your Roth IRA, and you need more places to invest, taxable brokerage is the way to go. But I'm guessing a lot of you haven't maxed out these other plans because we're talking $30,500 for those under the age of 50, and then you could invest an additional $8,000 between the Roth IRA and the employer sponsor plan. So if you are investing more than $30,000, I would love for you to come on the show and bring your tips like I'm giving you my tips. And we can share with others some of the ways that you've been able to create the ability to invest more than $30,000 a year, which is great. All right. Now, Social Security. Is Social Security going to be here? I don't know. I feel like possible, likely it'll still be around in some way, shape, or form because we've all paid into it. We're all still paying into it. Will we get our full amount? Who knows? Do we want to depend on Social Security with them saying it's not funded well enough? I don't. Social Security, as it currently stands, was designed to replace about 40% of your income, your pre-retirement income. If you're a high income earner, it's probably less. So if you're a high income earner, it might only replace 20%. Could you live on 20 to 40% of what you're making now? If that's the case, that you can, tell me how you're living this incredibly frugal life and what you plan for retirement, because you know you're going to have medical bills and you're going to want to travel. So I don't think any of us want to live on 20 to 40% of our income. Some of us are going to have a pension if you work for the federal government or another municipality, but they're becoming fewer and fewer and far between. And the new pension for the federal government is not like the one that maybe our parents had. Not gonna pay so much that we'll say, oh, okay, we don't need any other income sources. We will. Okay. Now, if you are currently self-employed, that means that you get a 1099. I myself get some 1099 income. If you are self-employed and you make a 1099, which means that you're not getting a W-2, you're getting a 1099 with no taxes withheld, all of that. We can talk about how to make sure that you document all of your expenses so that you can write off the max that you're entitled to by law, and keep more of your hard-earned income. We can talk about that another time. But if you are self-employed and you don't have an employer-sponsored retirement plan, you do have other options. Now, there is the self-employed IRA. There is a simple IRA, and then there's a solo 401k. If you do the SEP IRA or the self-employed IRA plan, you're not going to be able to do a backdoor Roth. Remember, I talked about that before for high income earners. If you have that, because all that money is in pre-tax, and there's going to be pro rata rules and all of that. I'm not going to get into all of that in this video because y'all will probably say, okay, you lost me. But just keep in mind, if you're going to be using the backdoor Roth, talk to me or a financial professional or accountant before you do a backdoor Roth if you're trying to use that SEP IRA. But it allows you to put in up to 25% of your net income minus the benefit that you're getting from the deduction. So it's kind of like a circular thing where it's going to turn out to be like 20%. Okay, but it's 20% of your net self-employed income that you could put into that. The other thing is you can do a solo 401k. And a solo 401k allows you, if you don't have an employer sponsored retirement plan at all, to put in the $23,500 for this year that you're able to put in for your employee contributions, but then also you could put in that around 20% that you could put into for on the employer side. So it kind of lets you be both the employee and the employer. You know what I'm talking about if you're a 1099 contractor, because you do also pay those self-employment taxes. So if you're confused about that part, I didn't want to go into too much detail in this video because I know how it gets when you get overwhelmed with details and information, but find ways to put money away, period. And if you've exhausted all these other avenues, go for it with a taxable brokerage account that's available at any of those larger firms as well. Typically, it's best if you can find passively managed funds than just track a certain index. Maybe it tracks the Standard & Poor's 500, which is the top 500 companies in the U.S. Maybe it tracks the entire U.S. Maybe it tracks, you kind of diversify between large cap funds or S&P 500. And those are the larger companies, large capitalization, meaning they have a large market share. And then maybe you want to throw in some small and mid cap. That means small and medium sized companies. Small capitalization, medium capitalization. They abbreviate it small cap, medium cap. So you might do that. Some people might want to throw in a little international, but you diversify across indexes, not just trying to pick an individual stock or pick, follow an actively managed fund that's going to charge you large fees. Low cost index fund, you won't have to pay fees, and it'll basically just earn what the market earns for whatever diversified fund you're in. Here's the big thing. Do not touch this money. It's for your retirement. So you don't want to take out loans and withdrawals and all of that because you're working against yourself. The best avenue to save for retirement is compounding growth. So if you keep taking the money out and, okay, now I got a little bit, now I want to do this, that money is not growing and working for you. You're taking it out. So you're not going to get the full benefit of the savings that you're doing. Okay. And then here's the other thing. Don't sell. A lot of times people say, oh, the market's going down, I better sell. No. When there's volatility, if the market goes down, buy more. Why? Because you're buying at a discount. And the market typically goes up and down, but it kind of goes up and down while it's moving up, right? So that's kind of like my weight, to be honest. But I mean, if I started age 18, maybe it's gone down some and it goes up. It goes down a little and back up, and then over the years it kind of creeps up. That's kind of like the market. It might go down some, but the next thing is back up. So a lot of things would have to happen. Like Wall Street would have to just completely be crashed, eradicated. Great Depression of 1929, before we had this banking system, all that. Things would have to happen for the stock to just crash and you never get your money back. Now, it does take some time to recover. At times it might take, a few years or something like that for you to get your money back where it was. But it's best to leave it there, and then you just keep putting money in, so you're buying at a discount. So as it's going up, you've bought at different levels that call it dollar cost averaging. And over time, it still goes up. Don't be afraid to put money into the market in an index fund. Now, if you put all your numbers, all your money into, I'm not going to give you a specific stock, but I'm just going to make up XYZ company. And that company folds, all your money is gone, right? But if you put your money into the S&P 500, the largest 500 companies in the US, for example, what are the odds that all 500 were to crash? That would mean we would have bigger problems like looking for food, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. If you kind of diversify into an index fund that tracks one of the major indexes, you're not going to go down to zero. If it goes down 10% or 20%, over time you'll see it go back up and then it'll, take off. So we can't be leaving our money in cash. I know a lot of times our parents told us, if your parents didn't tell you this, you're doing great. My folks said, no, no, no. Don't put money into the stock market. Why? You're going to lose your money. You're actually losing money while it's sitting in cash because the value is not keeping pace with inflation. And so therefore while your value is maybe going slightly up, the value that it pays for is going down. So you do want to keep cash for emergencies, like I said in a previous video, 3 to 6 months. But what you don't want to do is keep your retirement money in cash. Now, as you get closer and closer to retirement, you're going to want to make it a more conservative allocation, which means how your stocks are invested. You may have a little more cash than you had before. You may have some bonds, putting it in safer investments, but you're still going to have some money in the stock market, right? But if you're younger, you're years away, more than 10 years from retirement, you keep that money in cash, it's just losing value. So let's not do that. The big takeaway that I want to leave you with is do something. Get started. It's time to get started now. If you're watching this and you are 20 years old, put a little bit of that little paycheck and it's going to just go a long way. You'll be surprised at how much it's worth by the time you get to retirement. I don't want to say my age, but retirement. Right. Now, let me ask you something I've been wondering. Who are the Joneses? Why am I keeping up with them? I want to keep up with me. Miss Frazier. I am not out here trying to figure out, oh, my neighbor got a car, I need another car. My neighbor got this, I need this. My friend got that, I need that. I'm looking for the best deals I can get possible for what I'm trying to do. So, if I like my car, I don't care if you like it or not, it got me to work. Right? Get what makes you happy and what you need. And if you know you're not saving for retirement, what you out here pushing a Lexus for? What you out here trying to get an Escalade or whatever? I know Escalade, that was the thing when I was young, but live within your means. And once you're putting away what you need to for your future, if you want to save up money and get that car you want, go for it. But if you know you're a little lacking, like most of my people are, please stop trying to keep up with the latest and greatest. I still have my iPhone 14 and I've had it for 3 years and it works. So since it works, would it have made me happier to have a 15 than a 16 than a 17? Probably not. Now somebody's probably going to comment and say, that 17 has nice features. I'll see it when my phone needs to be replaced. Until then, I'm perfectly comfortable with what I have. I had a Nokia when it first came out. These phones are awesome. All right. And then think about, what are you spending money on and why? Why? Like we talked about before. If I'm spending money on a subscription that I don't use, why am I spending it? If I have a gym membership and I'm telling you I am going to the gym and I haven't gone in 6 months, maybe I'm not going to the gym. So then we can use that money to put toward our future. What about this? Y'all know that glorious time when you pay off your car note or pay off a bill, and next month you ain't got that bill no more? Why don't you put that money, or at least a chunk of it, each month towards your savings goals and investing goals? If you do that, you are going to be having a great retirement, and I am going to see you in Greece and Thailand and all the other places I haven't been to yet. But I'm making my way through the list. I have been to some places now. So put something aside and do not procrastinate. I know it's easy because when I was 21 years old and I graduated from college, I was sitting there thinking, retirement? You mean when I'm 65, 67? That's later. But as I've studied, I think about where I would be. I'm doing fine now. I'm good. But where I would be if I started saving and investing at that point, I did save, but I didn't invest the money. And if I had invested the money and put it into an index fund, man, I would be rolling. So, key takeaways. Hit me up if you got questions, and feel free to put any comments in the chat or any questions or future videos you would like. I have a few ideas as well. Put them in the chat or hit me up and let me know what you think. If you got any other questions, I guess it's not the chat because it's not Zoom, it's the comments. That's right. All right. Talk to you soon.